Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to another English lesson. Before we begin, I want you all to tell me a common word you can think of when you see these situations. What do you do as soon as you get home after you see something thrilling or shocking on the streets? What does a mama do to put her baby to sleep? Uh, what do you think you do when you have to make up a lie? I am sure some of you must have gotten that common answer for these situations. You tell stories, right? You go to your house and narrate the incident, or you make up a story to lie to someone, right? Of course, it is wrong to lie, but many of us do it. There are some really well known writers like Enid Blyton, R.K. Narayan, Ruskin Bond, who have written some mind blowing stories, especially for children. If you want to become uh, like these great writers too, then you need to learn the art of story writing. Come on, students, now I want you all to skim through the story on the side and think of the components of the story. Alright, students, I'm sure you can answer these really easy who am I questions. I am the way the story starts. Who am I? I am the beginning. Very good. Next is I am the place where the story unfolds. I am the middle. And last but not the least, I always come last. And that is, of course, the ending. Great. Now that you have identified the format of the story, I would like to highlight its importance to you. Why do you think the beginning of the story is important? It's important because this is where the reader decides whether to keep reading the story or not. Okay? It also sets the reader's expectations for the story's middle and the ending. And last but not the least, it sets the mood for the reader. So the beginning is really important, alright? Next comes the middle part of the story. Why do you think the middle is important? Because this is where the bulk of the story rests, right? It gives the key details and it holds the reader's attention. It is where we read the climax or the turning point of the story. So it is very important. Next is the ending. This is where a story comes to a close. It could either be a conclusion or a solution, and it is where a character learns a lesson. A good ending will leave the reader thinking about what happened in the story for a long, long time. Alright, okay, students, now I want you all to skim through the story once again and focus more on the highlighted words. So, students, what do you think are the words highlighted in yellow?
They are the characters.
Yes, that's correct. So, a story needs to have characters, right? Alright, now I want you to tell me what do you think about the words highlighted in pink signify?
They tell us where the animals are.
Very good. So that means they portray the setting of the story. The setting of any story is very important because it sets the mood for the reader. Now, students, you must have figured that there is something going on in the story on the lines of a group of farm animals who rebel against the human farmer hoping to create a society where animals can be equal, free, and happy. Ultimately, however, the rebellion is betrayed. So, Napoleon, who started the revolt, betrayed the group of animals in order to become a leader. And the farm ends up in a state as bad as it was before, under the dictatorship of a pig named Napoleon. So, students, do you know what this is called? This is called the plot of the story. This is the main idea revolving and unfolding till the end. Now, students, I want you to tell me, what do you think about the phrases that are highlighted in blue?
I think they highlight the character's emotions.
Very well done. That's absolutely correct. So, students, emotions also play a really important role in a story because they make you feel the way you need to feel. There is one dialogue prominently highlighted in white. I want someone to read it out for me.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
So, students, what do you think about this line or dialogue? This sentence, my dear students, is very, very well known, and George Orwell is given praises innumerable times because it is a comment on the hypocrisy or the double standards of governments that keep highlighting the absolute equality of their citizens but give power and privileges to a small elite or the higher class. Now, students, tell me how many animals are there in the story? There are five animals. Which animal by the end becomes the superior one? The pig, right? Do you think there should be any animal superior to another? No, they are all animals, they should be equal. And what about humans then? We still follow the age old caste system and discriminate against people. Do you think such a thing should still exist? No. So, children, what can you do to eliminate this kind of discrimination and move toward an egalitarian or a more equal society?
First way is we can always treat people with kindness and accept them and treat people equally despite of their creed, caste, class, gender or religion. And we can always raise our voice against any discrimination happening in our surroundings.
Very good. That's a very good idea. Alright. Now, students, do you think the story would have the same impact if the order was jumbled? No. So, the sequence of the story also matters a lot, and along with that, the continuity also matters. Last but not the least, we always need to keep in mind the grammatical correctness of the story. So, children, these are the features that you need to keep in mind while writing any story, especially if you want to write a really good story. Alright, now it's time for some brainstorming. Here's an outline of a story. Please go through it and then I'll ask you for a few responses. Okay, students, now tell me, how will you begin the story? Now, someone says, once upon a time there lived an elderly carpenter. Very good. Another person has said, in a city there was an elderly carpenter who had worked hard for 20 years for his employer. Now the elderly carpenter wanted to retire and therefore he went to his employer to inform him about his decision. When he told his employer this, the employer asked him to build one last house as a favor to him. Very good. And the third response that I got is, Once upon a time, there was an elderly carpenter who was getting retired. The employer he worked for were always satisfied and mesmerized with his work. One day, one of his employer requested the old carpenter to build a last house before he retires. Very good, you all have used some really nice words that I have noticed. So, students, here you could also begin your story with a dialogue, right? Or a proverb to make it interesting. Okay? Now, how will you start the middle part of your story? I have a response which says, after the house was built, he his employer inspected the work. So here's a spelling error. His employer inspected the work. Okay, that is how you will start your middle part. Another response that I got says, listening to his employer, the carpenter agreed to do the job. But while doing the job, the carpenter thought that he no longer needs to impress his employer, as this was his last assignment and then he would retire. Therefore, the carpenter does his shoddy job on the house. When he completes making the house, he goes to his employer and tells him that he has finished his job and that now he would like to retire. Very good. Another response, the carpenter thought about it and decides to do a poor job as it wouldn't matter, for he was about to retire. In his mind, he thought that he no longer needs to impress his employer or customers. When his work was done, the employer inspects the house, and to the carpenter's surprise, he hands over the key of the house to the carpenter, saying that it is his gift for all his years of service. Very, very well written. So, here we see the matter, the plot unfolding. Very good. With children, here you could also give name to the carpenter or the employer. You could add more characters and you could show some interactions, right? So when you write another story, keep all of this in mind, okay? Now students, I want you to tell me how will you end this story. So, Ankita has said, hence the carpenter realized his folly, he regretted not having done a good job. So, lesson learned, very good ending. Another response from Adelaide Pereira is, the employer goes along with the carpenter to inspect the house, and when they reach the house, the employer hands over the keys of the house to him, saying, the house is a gift for you for all the years that you have worked for me. Hearing this, the carpenter's face falls and he regrets his decision of not doing a good job on the house. Moral also Adelaide has given. Be honest in whatever you do always. So, very good job, Adelaide. And the last response that I have taken is by Janelle De Costa. The carpenter was shocked and didn't believe this act of kindness, but soon he regretted for being lazy and irresponsible towards his work by not having done a good job. So well done, very well done, all of you. Thank you, Ankita, Adelaide, and Janelle. You have come up with some really nice ideas. Thanks a lot. Now, you all have to think of a title for this story, right? I have come up with one, and that is Jamal's Last Job. You guys didn't give a name to the carpenter, right? But I gave him the name Jamal, and I have titled it Jamal's Last Job. Sounds nice? Alright. Your friend Francina has, however, very enthusiastically thought of two titles, and one of them is Give Your Best Even If It Is Your Last, and the second one is Surprises Come in Unexpected Ways. Very good. Very thoughtful titles, Francina. Now, children, it is your turn. Compose a story all by yourself. I'll be giving you all some time. Meanwhile, you all can compose something by yourself. Alright, so we have something written by Vanessa. Let's read. So she has titled her story as Four Smart Students. Okay. One night, four college students were out partying late night and didn't study for the test which was scheduled for the next day in the morning. They thought of a plan. They made themselves look dirty with grease and dust. These are not smart students, okay? These are very mischievous students. So please, if you could, then please change the title. And if this is your definition of smartness, then all right. We have another response from Sarah. Let's read. Stephen is a middle aged man. He was born into a poor family, still raised well by his father and mother. His father worked in a welding shop and worked more than 12 hours a day to earn a decent living. Still, Stephen's father could not afford to provide a luxurious living to his family. Stephen was an average student in school and he used to score around 70% marks. Stephen's dream was to become a doctor. Since his marks weren't very high, he could not get the desired course he wanted to study. He joined a bachelor's degree course, completed the course successfully, and got a job in the company. His life was going on with no dramatic change. His father was still in his welding shop and earned for his life. Okay. Where is the title, my dear? Otherwise, a very good start. I really do feel like reading both the stories. So, very good job, both of you. I'm sure all of y'all must have also started writing the story. Uh, this is the summary for everything that we learned today, and your homework for today is to complete the story that you started writing. Alright? So, thank you so much, students, and see you soon.